We are live. We are live. Hey.
So,
hey, everyone. We are here. We're having fun. This is Rich, and I'm tired of talking to Rich already. Rich and I talked yesterday for a few minutes. But,
yes.
Hey, really quickly, I'm Jack Mangan in the Queensryche shirt. And you know me from Metal Asylum, Metal Hall of Fame, and of course the Am I Evil graphic novel. We're 3 weeks, a little bit under 4 weeks out from finishing up our Indiegogo. So please go and give us some support. Got about 55% of the way there. We're doing well, and we're going to create something. But the more we get, the more we can do. Like adding the prints, for example, is one of our stretch goals, and shaving this crazy thing. So got some bunch of stretch goals. Anyway, I'm going to shut up because got some great people. Got Rich in the same shirt he was wearing yesterday next to me.
Yes, because we did a little short interview yesterday, but our guest didn't make it, so we're going to reschedule that. But I had to wear the Pantera again because it's Glamterra, not Pantera. It's awesome. Joe, I already got a guy that was asking me. He's like, "Where'd you get the shirt, man?" I was like, "I got it from a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy." So,
all right.
So I'm from Metal Asylum and Brave Words and Metal Hall of Fame, and we are joined by tonight, Mr. the none only, the mystery, the myth, the legend, everything, Mr. Joey Vera from Armored Saint and Fate's Warning. What's up, Joe?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, man. We just saw each other a second ago, but it's good to see you, Rich. We haven't seen each other in a long time. Nice to meet you, Jack, and thanks for having me, you guys.
Oh yeah,
thanks for coming. The last time I saw you was at the Saint show in New York.
Okay, Gramercy, right?
Yes, when you guys did Symbol, the whole album.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a good show.
Great show.
Great
album. So great album. So
thank you.
How long ago was that? 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I believe it was in August, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. It's fun. It's we actually recorded that show. Sorry, notifications.
Yeah, right.
We recorded that show. We had a bunch of cameras out there in the crowd, and we recorded the sound. And
awesome.
We did. Our plan is to put out some kind of a live, the whole show live. It got put on the burner, though, back burner, because we wanted to concentrate on finishing the new record, Punch in the Sky. And I just recently resumed listening to the tracks and trying to fine tune some things and edit some things for that. And then, I don't know, hopefully sometime next year it will come out, but it's not on the books yet, so I'm not sure. So we're still working on it.
Cool. How's the video footage?
I've seen very little, to be honest with you. But what I saw looked really cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It was a great crowd, so hopefully you got a lot of good shots of that.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good vibe. It was killer. It's kind of weird because it was in the beginning of the tour. We did a short tour. It was like maybe 14 days. It wasn't very long. But that was only the third show. So we were kind of working out some bugs still. But it's rock and roll.
Couldn't tell. Couldn't tell. So, Jack, you got a question for him, or can I fire one off?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to share this around, but I was going to say, is that an exclusive? It's going to say you heard it here first. DVD coming out.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that yet. So,
no, we've kind of talked about it loosely. It hasn't been released in the press or anything like that, but we've talked about it a few times, and people have been asking about it. We talked about it on stage every night, because we videotaped one show, but we did the audio for several shows just to have backup. And then, so it's not a secret.
Cool.
Sorry.
All right.
we thought we were special, but we're just like everybody else, right?
You are special.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Rich. Like I said, I'm going to share this around to to our pages and Facebook and around on Facebook.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
So for those people that don't know, not only are you the bass player for Armored Saint and Fate's Warning, but you also do studio work. Can you tell everybody what you do?
Well, I haven't really been that active, to be honest with you. I've been so busy in the last quite a while. I haven't done anything in a while, but occasionally I get hired to mix records. I mostly work in the mixing capacity, so people will record records on their own with other engineers or whatever, and then at the end they'll send me the record to put the final mix on it. So I have done mostly mixing in the last 10 years, I would say, but not a whole lot of it. Just I'm just really busy mostly, haven't had a whole lot of time, but I like it. I like working with other people and other bands, and it's fun.
What's the last couple of albums maybe that you did that people would know that they didn't, that they would have known that you put your hand on at your your ear and everything for mixing?
Well, I did a couple prog records with this friend of mine who lives in LA here, and the band's called Oceans of Night. And I think I did 2 records for him. I've worked more than 10 years ago, though. It was more like almost 20 years ago. I worked with our friend Jack Frost, and I've worked on a couple of Seven Witches records with Jack. But not much since then, to be honest with you, other than those couple. Yeah, not really. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were a little more active. I thought you were a little more active doing that on the side from, Fates and Saint.
No, it's just so I've been so busy. It's hard to fit in, 3 weeks to mix a record or 2 weeks or whatever here and there.
Right. And especially since you got 2 albums coming out from 2 bands that you're in the same year.
Right.
I know, it's kind of crazy. And I mean, I've been in Fate's Warning for over 20 years now, and it's pretty amazing that this hasn't happened before. So the records I think are literally 3 weeks apart, maybe less than that. Which is pretty crazy. But it's not really affecting anything really right now. But it's cool. It's a cool thing. It was funny on Spotify. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. There was a metal playlist, and Armored Saint was like, number 2, and then Fate's Warning was number 3, and I'm like, oh my god, look, I'm on the number 2 and 3 spot on Spotify.
Nice.
It was pretty cool.
But when I sent you the thing about Sirius, did you know that the song was already playing on the East Coast, the Armored Saint song?
I forget when you sent that to me, but because there was a little bit of a slip in July, I believe it was, and they just it wasn't supposed to be on that early, but it was on for like a day. But I mean, for me, it's like, I don't care. I mean, it's like more radio play. That's cool by me.
Right.
But, the label had things in a certain way, and they had things lined up in a certain way, and so it was a little bit of a slip, but there's no harm done.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's Sirius XM. A lot of people are subscribed to that, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, liquid metal is huge. Jose's great. He's been a big supporter, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Killer.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Jack.
By the way. No relation, by the way. I'm Jack Mangan, and I'm not related to Jose Mangan. I mean, I definitely wanted to get into both of the albums. I'm not sure where to begin. I mean, I've not heard either one yet, but I love the advanced singles from the Armored Saint record. I don't know. I guess I'll go with an easy one. Can you just let us know, let your fans and let the world know a little bit what they're in for? I mean, we'll start with Armored Saint, but definitely want to ask the same question about both records.
Well, You know, it's hard for me to talk about this in this context because I'm really, really, really close to it. So, I mean, John and I and the guys just set out to make like a huge record. Like, just we wanted the songs to be super epic-y and massive and huge, and there's a lot of melodies, and then there's some great guitar riffs, a lot of great guitar playing. Rhythm section sounds great. John Bush is amazing. Like, he just almost like outdoing himself these days. It's pretty crazy. But we're just super proud of the record. It's got a lot of great songs on it. There's a lot of diversity this time. I mean, all our records have always had some diversity.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if it was that conscious, to be honest with you, but it ended up being like this record has a lot of diversity, but not in a way where it's going to like freak people out or anything, because it still sounds like Armored Saint and all that. But there might be some surprises for some people, and I think in a good way. But yeah, we're just super proud of it. We love the record. It sounds great. It was mixed by Jay Rustin, who also mixed Win Hands Down. So, you know, it's just, I don't know. We're proud of it. We're stoked about it.
Did you guys choose the 2 singles that came out, the first 2, or somebody else?
Yeah, ultimately we did. The label, you know, has input, and I want them to have input because I want them to be excited about it. So when it came time to pick singles, they were asking me, you know, what do you think the singles should be? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I mean, I don't, you know, I don't, it's hard for me. I'm too close to it, you know? So I asked everybody else, like in the whole office, I sent out basically, my wife, Tracy, helped me, sent out a big email and said, you know, when everybody gets a chance, you know, pipe in if you're inclined, and let's hear what your 3 favorite songs are, basically. And it was kind of cool to see the responses. It was pretty varied, but there were certain songs that had it was consistently on the list, and the first 3 singles were consistently on their list. Then it came time to be, what's the first single going to be? Like, what's the first thing people hear, right? Yeah. So, you know, originally in my mind, I always wanted "Standing on the Shoulders of Giants" to be the first single. It's the first song on the record. It has a great intro. Well, I think most of us have seen it or heard it now. We've made a video for it, and it was released last week. But you know, it's like it's got a great intro, and it's got amazing chorus, and it's got riffs, and it's got everything, kind of, you know. But the only thing is that, and maybe not against it, but the only thing maybe going against it is that it's long. It's a 7-minute song, which by today's standards, I don't really think matters anymore. Bob Dylan's first single was 17 minutes, which is like, oh my God, really?
Right.
But I love Bob Dylan, don't get me wrong. But so then I started to think about, well, why was end of the attention span? Why was that on people's lists, everyone's list? And the more I thought about it, the more I kind of realized that I think that there's a certain expectation maybe about how people perceive Armored Saint and certain songs or a type of a song that they relate to us in sort of relations to how they view our band or what their opinions are or whatever to our band. And End of the Attention Span kind of had a little more like nostalgia about it. It had some kind of like riff and vibe and groove that maybe remind people. It would remind people of kind of where we come from, of our past a little bit. So the more I thought about it, the more I realized that would be a better song as the first track, because people don't have to think very hard about it. It's a straightforward song. It's simple. The chorus is great and to the point. It's catchy, It's got a double guitar harmony lead in it. I mean, it kind of has all the ingredients again, like Giants does, except it's shorter. And then, so that's why we ultimately went with that song first. And then we went ahead and made a video for it, and the video just came out amazing and great, and it was perfect for the song. So it ended up being like the right decision. And then, you know, so Giants was on the list also. So I kind of put that one second because I kind of felt like Giants is a little more of an artsy song, if you will. It's not like it's not a proggy song or anything like that, but it's got a little more, I don't know, artsiness about it. So I kind of felt that would be a good refresher after the straightforward end of the attention span. And it seems to be working, I guess. I don't know. But people responded positively to both of them. So we're super stoked about that. And currently working on the third single right now, which should be out on release day on October 23rd. And I'm not going to give away what song that is yet.
Sorry. You know what attention span reminded me of when I first heard it? I mean, it gets in so quick and easy, and it's such classic Saint. But it's definitely, it could be on Symbol or it could be on Revelation, which I really like that album. I think it fits right in with those two albums.
That's cool. You know, when I want to hear my take on it, which is kind of, you know, it relates to that in a way, because when I first listened back to, I was writing the riff and I kind of wasn't quite done with the demo, but I was listening back to it, you know, the rough demo, I guess, if you will. And I was like, oh, what does this remind me of? It reminds me of something. It reminds me of Chemical Euphoria from Raising Fear. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Chemical Euphoria. And I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. I mean, it doesn't sound like Chemical Euphoria, and it's not like we're rehashing Chemical Euphoria. Not at all. It reminds me of it, and that's okay because it's our song. It's not like it reminds me of, you know, Enter Sandman. Like that would be a problem, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So at that point I embraced it and I said, oh, okay, that's cool. You know, nothing wrong with us exploiting things that we do, and I think that we do well. And I've done it many times and still do it. There's certain things rhythmically that we do that I think are associated with our band. I have no problem with kind of like reforming that and putting it in a new position or a new box. I'm okay with that. So that's the funny similarity that I had with End of the Attention Span.
I dig the insightful look into the stuff. I think that's great. That, you know, like, I don't know, it just rocks. That I like that you have the insight. You can do the comparison, and just for what it's worth, I applaud that. I agree. It's nice when you can kind of echo back to the past, but not just dwell on the past. I think it's absolutely forward thinking. It's kind of a newer sound. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, I've been talking about this a lot in interviews right now, very recently, and there's this thing that that we've been really kind of consciously attempting to do over the past couple of records, really. Sorry, notifications. For Win and for Punching the Sky. And that is that I always kind of try to keep like one eye on where we come from, our lineage, how people perceive what our tradition is, you know, like, for lack of a better explanation, our early sound, like the first 3 records, basically, I guess you could say. And so I never lose sight of that. And a lot of that is the way that Dave Pritchard played guitar, because he was a big part of our early years. And the way he played guitar it's paramount to how we ended up sounding on those first 3 records. So I never want to lose sight of that. But at the same time, I don't want to just rewrite Raising Fear over and over again, or Can You Deliver over and over, or, you know, whatever. So with the other foot on the other side, I'm always looking to push this further and keep it in a modern world. Get influenced by things that are not part of our past, but rather part of what I'm influenced in the last 20 years or 10 years, you know, or even 2 weeks ago, you know. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the music is always growing and expanding in that way, but also tagging along something that belongs to us from our past. Now, the hard part is making those two things mesh together without it sounding really forced and fake and kind of like we're formulating something, you know. The trick is to still keep it honest and genuine. And I'm not sure how I do that. But I think that I think that between John and myself, we're able to form these songs that have those qualities. They have qualities of where we come from, but they also have qualities of us kind of growing and moving in a modern direction, if you will, or you know, just evolving in another way. And that's really, really important for us. Totally important for us to have that.
That's great.
Nice. Yeah. Jack, you got one? Or you want
Oh,
to
I
go?
got plenty. I got tons. I got plenty. So
let me
go
ask
ahead.
a quick one about the new album. So you're doing a show October 10th at the Whiskey, a record release, right?
Yes.
So tell everybody about that, what they have to do to watch it, if it's paid, if it's free, what do you get, the whole deal.
Yeah, sure. Backstory a little bit is the promoter came to us and offered us this thing, that virtual thing, and we were like, well, can we have people in there? And they said no. It's the city has a citywide, as most states do still. So there's no crowd is allowed. We thought it was the weirdest idea ever. We said no. And then after considering it for a couple of days, we decided that what else are we going to do? We have a record coming out. We can't play gigs. We can't go on tour. You can't make plans for anything. We need to re-engage with fans. So this is the only way we know how to do this. So we decided to do it, and we're going to go in there with a smile on our face and have fun. We plan on just rocking out like normal. It's going to be an empty venue, of course, so that's going to be weird. But we're just going to try to get into it within the band on stage, and we're doing a full set, which includes some classics and older songs and a few older nuggets from deep cuts records. I mean, deep cuts from our records, and we're also playing 4 brand new songs from the new record, and we think it's going to be a lot of fun and a blast. It's only $10 to get in, so it's not free, but it's $10. Come on.
$10, yeah.
And there's other things, like if you want to get exclusive merch or signed CDs, that's another possibility, but you don't have to buy all that. You can just get a ticket for $10 and watch it from your house. The cool thing is that it starts streaming on the 10th of October, but it runs for a full month. So you can watch it anytime between October 10th and November 8th. So that's a cool thing. Like if you can't make it on the 10th, you can watch it on the 16th, or you can watch it on November 2nd or whatever. Where you should go to check this out is Armored Saint. That's one word. ArmoredSaint.veeps. That's VEEPS.com. And all you got to do is sign in and hit the link and get into the thing, and you'll see the ticket thing there. And we're going to do a little Q&A as well. We're going to have fans submit questions to a mailing list thing that we have coming out in a couple weeks. And we'll do a little Q&A thing at the very end. And we want to celebrate the record release, and we want to do it with our fans. And we just feel like this is a good way to engage. Like I said, it's this or nothing, and doing nothing sounds really, really, really terrible. So
right.
we're gonna do this and have fun with it, and hopefully you guys all join us. So
awesome.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Jack, you got another Saint question? Or you want to move on to Fates?
Well, I got bass questions, I got Saint questions, I got Fate questions.
We can bounce back and forth. It's cool.
Go ahead.
But I was also going to say, for you guys, out there watching, if you have any questions, drop them in. Go ahead and drop them in the chat. We have a couple of comments. Kind of just a lot of cheers. Tony Mass says,
cool.
Fates. Arthur Gonzalez says, hello, Joey Vera, sending good vibes from London, UK. Can't
What's up, Art?
Esme Madrigal does some fire and explosions and hearts. And Dave Masteni said, good choice, although he said it a while ago. So I'm not sure what he said good choice about. Yeah, let me just, so I'm a guitar player. I guess, like, I understand you started out on guitar in the very beginning. So I guess really my question is, what's your advice for guitar players who also want to play bass properly, like as a bassist, not just pick up a pick and just play, echo the guitar, like play actually as a bassist?
This is crazy. You're the second person to ask me this in the last 2 hours. That's the weirdest thing ever. I did another interview earlier, and the guy asked me the same exact thing.
They stole it from me.
Wow, that's wild. Was it you? Was I talking to you earlier? Wow.
It was Jose Mangan. He stole it. He made the same questions.
Well, I started on guitar in like the 7th grade or something like that. I only played for about 2 years before making the switch to bass, but I've always played guitar on the side since then. So I still play guitar a lot. I write everything on the guitar. I don't write anything on the bass. There's maybe a handful of things I ever wrote on the bass, but everything I write is on guitar. And I don't know, advice. What did I tell him? I think I said what I did, and when I was still learning though, so I was pretty young. I'm assuming you're way more advanced than what I was at that point. But I just listened to my favorite records or favorite songs, and then I would pick out the bass part, a part separate from the guitar part, and I would try to figure out what the bass was doing, and I would basically try to imitate it as close as I could. Now, when I first started, I was playing with a pick because I came from Guitar World, and I played with a pick for not very long before switching to fingers, so probably 2 years. So probably by my senior year in high school, I was playing with fingers by then, something like that. So fingers changes things a little bit too. Like I was learning songs that were obviously pick players, trying to learn, Roundabout by Yes, or, things that are obviously played with a pick. But other than that, I just would say I just listen to my favorite songs. The first guys that I started trying to kind of imitate were Geezer Butler, John Paul Jones, if I could, John Deacon, which was kind of impossible actually when I was 16 years old. People like that, John Entwistle. A little bit later, I started getting into funk and R&B, so I started listening to Louis Johnson from the Brothers Johnson. I was listening to Sly Stone, so Larry Graham is amazing. Of course, kind of beyond my abilities at that time, but it was pushing me to try different things with my hands, and so those things I think will help you. At least, pick some of your favorite bass players that you like, and then just try to imitate it,
Yeah, that's good. Funny, I actually want to ask you this too. The last concert I saw, people say, hey, what's the last concert you saw before lockdown? It was Victor Wooten and Steve Bailey. So I'm
amazing.
Not really going to play that kind of stuff.
Amazing. I saw that they did an Ampeg tour. They've done a lot of these, obviously, but I saw one of those tours, them two, in a music store out here in LA. It was quite a while ago, 15 years ago, maybe longer. Shoot, so quite a while ago. But it was cool. It was amazing to be that close and see those guys and how effortless it looks. It's pretty ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right, Rich. Yeah. What do you got, Rich?
Okay, so let's talk about Fates. What's the new album like? Is it like the previous one? Is it like more like Pleasant Shade of Gray? Is it maybe more old school? Where does it fit? And how do you get to do all your parts? Do you create all of your parts, or is that other guys in the band that work on that and then submit it to you and you play it?
Well, really hard to talk about a record that's not out yet that no one's really heard.
Right.
As I said, it's hard for me to even talk about the Saint record, but I don't know. The Fates record, you know, it's a great record. Jim and Ray wrote some great songs. It's very melodic. It's kind of a mix of the last two records. I don't know how else to really describe it,
Okay.
other than that. I will say that I think that there's a little more songs that are a little on the shorter side, um, but that's not to say that it's, you know, a bunch of short songs, because it's not.
Yeah.
But there's a few songs that are on the shorter side maybe than we've done in the past. Don't get me wrong, there's a few big epic-y, crazy, proggy stuff still. So those fans are going to be really happy. And everybody played great and sang great on it. It's awesome. Um, as far as the writing goes, I don't do any writing with Fates. It's all Jim and Ray. They did a great job. The songs are awesome. Great choruses. So great guitar playing. Jim plays. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't really like analyzed it that much, but I believe Jim plays a lot more leads than he normally does or has in the past. So
Okay.
really great guitar work. Mike Abdel, our touring guitar player, also plays on it as well. Again, plays some great stuff too. And like as far as my bass parts go, this time Jim had a lot of them already written, which I was actually really stoked about. And the main reason is because I was super busy. I was finishing the Armored Saint record when COVID locked down Los Angeles, and we had just finished tracking the you know, the recording part of it, and I was literally driving the hard drives over to Jay Ruston when the city was shut down. So
Wow.
we just missed it. That worked out great for us. But like literally 2 days later, after Jay started mixing the Saint record, I got my first set of emails from Jim Matheos, and it's like, here you go, you know. Like I'm hearing Fates Warning material for the first time. I haven't even heard any songs yet. Like I haven't even heard them. Haven't heard the demos. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
my head was so far in the clouds with Armored Saint. I was like, dude, I can't. Like, you know, I did my bass parts at the end of the process. So they did drums and they did guitars and vocals before I even got my parts. So I kind of normally prefer to work that way, by the way. So that was actually a request, and it was I prefer to work that way because I like to know where the vocals are sitting, and the guitar melodies, so that I don't step on things. If I want to go off and be melodic as well, I don't want to step on anybody. So I prefer to have everyone else's parts down, and then I'll put my bass on at the end. It's a little unorthodox sometimes, but when you're making records, especially like remotely, like the way that we do, you know, some of us live all over the country, and Ray lives in Spain, you know, so we can't go to the studio and make this. So we have to do it one by one like this. So I was lucky in that I got the parts at the end, and thankfully Jim had at least written, and he plays the bass parts, but he plays with a pick, and he's a guitar player. He's not a bass player, and he'll be the first one to tell you. So he approaches things like a guitar player that's playing bass does, and his parts are very pick centric, I would say. I don't approach it that way unless I feel like it's necessary, or unless I feel like, oh, that does sound better with a pick, then I will do it with a pick. But mostly I try to approach it from a finger point of view. And so I was glad because it kind of gave me a head start as to what he was looking for. And now also keep in mind, he's the composer. So as anybody who's a Fates fan knows, that Fates Warning music has a lot of layers, a lot of things going on at the same time. And those things are done on purpose. They're done specifically by the composer. So I don't want to come into the composer and go, I'm going to take this part that you meticulously wrote and I'm going to rewrite it. You know,
Yeah.
Why would I do that? That would not be cool. So it's pretty clear Jim and I have worked long enough where I know where I should go off and I know where I should lay low. And so mostly I used his parts as a launching pad, and I would say, okay, this is what he's looking for. I'm just going to replay it with my finger. And then he will either come back and say, not enough, like, fine, it's good, or he'll say, not enough, make it more, move it more. And I'll say, okay, and then I'll take it further. So it was cool for me to work that way, especially this time, because my head was still like, I was going from approving Armored Saint mixes like 1 minute and then putting on headphones and then working on the Fates Warning thing the next minute. Yeah. So I was trying to like keep my focus in both places, and it was pretty hard. But the fact that I had these kind of head starts from Jim made it a lot easier. At least I knew what he was looking for. And it was cool for me because I got to basically put in my take on things. You know, like I have a tendency to play a bit funky, and he knows when it's too much. He'll tell me too funky. And then I dial it back. But I'll always approach it from that point of view of trying to make it rhythmic and moving. So I had a lot of fun making the record. It was pretty challenging because this was the first record. I never even heard the demos yet. So I was like hearing this stuff for the very first time, and then 10 minutes in, I'm like, okay, I got to start recording. Like they're waiting for me. So I gotta get to work. So like the learning process was like learn it, play it, learn it, play it, learn it, play it. It was pretty intense, but I'm really happy with the way the record turned out. It was mixed by Joe Barisi, and it sounds amazing. He did a great job mixing the record. And I don't know, it's got a different vibe. It does have its own thing, comparatively to the last several records, but it's not so outside the box that people are going to be shocked or anything. Judging by the first single, I think most people have heard the first single, "Scars." That's a pretty good indication of what to expect. So,
cool,
nice,
yeah.
Actually, I got a quick follow up, but we got a good question from the crowd. But so I was just going to ask, when you're in that situation where you're getting those songs, how much thought and how much time do you have to think about just tone and even your own sound, as opposed to just playing the parts note for the notes, playing the notes? How much time do you put into even your own production, or do you just kind of fire it off and say, do with this what you will?
Well, in the beginning, before we even started, Jim and I had several conversations about the sound of the bass, because that's always important. But it was important Jim wanted to make sure that we both were on the same page. He had brought up something kind of interesting, I thought, at that time. He had just done, a year ago, they did the Arch Matheos record, right? And as most Fates fans know. And it was done with a lot of different musicians, different bass players, different drummers, and so forth. So one thing that he realized in having different, specifically bass players, I think, was that every bass player sounds very different. Not only do they play differently, but they also have, like, sonically, their sound is very different and very unique. And they found that when he was mixing the record for the Arch Matheos record, that they were sometimes struggling to keep it, to make each song have a continuous continuity, because the bass sound was vastly different. And so they started to find out, like, oh, well, this guy's sound is really hard to define. This guy's sound is too distorted. That would be me. This guy's sound is just perfect, right? So in learning all those things about it, Jim had a really clear idea about what he wanted for the new Fates record. So we kind of went back and forth, and we ended up pointing towards Sean Malone, who plays with Cynic, and has been playing. He did a couple songs on the Arch Matheos, and he he's played on an OSI record as well with Jim, and great player, obviously. And he's got a very unique sound. It's a very kind of a nasally, for lack of a better explanation, a very jazz pickup sound. It just sounds. But the benefit of this sound is that, according to Jim, they had a really easy time making it audible. So, and I'm like, well, I'm all down for making the bass more audible. I'm not going to lie to you. But, you know, my sound that I've been pursuing in the last 10, 20 years has been way more along the Geddy Lee lines, sorry. And really almost Tool-esque, kind of really distorted, nasty, you know, almost too much low end in a way. And I think that that's harder to make it kind of poke through a mix with a sound like that, without it getting in the way of rhythm guitars and that kind of thing. So I kind of went and listened to the Arch Matheos record, and I basically kind of came up with a sound that I thought was pretty close, and Jim loved it. He said, "Oh, that sounds amazing. Let's go with that." So once I had it set, I didn't change it. I made some subtle changes on a few songs, but mostly the sound was determined before I even recorded the first song. And I pretty much kept it the same for the rest of the recording.
Cool.
Kind of as nerd talk. Sorry, I hope there's a lot of nerds out there, because we're getting into nerd territory here.
And no nerds allowed.
I mean, I'm the nerd starting it, so I'm not pointing fingers here.
So, Rich, we got a good question from the audience. I don't know, Rich. I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
So, well, it was again from Arthur Gonzalez. It basically says, "Are you going to be doing Bloodstock with Merciful Fate next year?"
Art Gonzalez.
Oh my God! I completely forgot that you're playing it. I can't believe I forgot that you were playing in Merciful Fate. We got to talk about that a little bit. I love Fate.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, all the shows were slated to happen this summer, and obviously everything got moved and canceled. And they basically rescheduled just about all of the dates for next summer. And Bloodstock was added. I don't believe Bloodstock was on for this year. I think Bloodstock was an addition for next year. So as far as I know, you know, no one knows yet exactly what's going to happen with the world, but it's on the schedule to play next year and to do it. I've committed to do the shows, so if everything goes the way it's supposed to go, then yes, I will be there at Bloodstock, as well as the other shows with Merciful Fate.
And you only had one American show, right? I think it was Vegas.
Yeah, Psycho Vegas, and that's also been rescheduled for next August. I think it's August. And I think so. I'm not positive if that's announced yet, but I think they were trying to reschedule that as well. That was the only U.S. date, yeah.
Well, hopefully there's a New York or something.
I mean, it was an honor to be even asked to do this. I was on tour with Fates Warning, and we were going through Texas. We were in Dallas, actually, and King Diamond lives in Texas, and him and Brian Slavo came to the show, and King pulled me aside, and he told me the situation with Timmy, and it was really sad to hear. And you know, he said, you know, if he's not able to do it, if he's too weak or something, would you be able to fill in? And I said, well, yeah. I mean, I'm free at that time, and I'm honored. Thank you. I'll do my best to honor Timmy, his missing parts too. So I'm in. And then at the back of my mind, though, after a couple months later, I'm like, I'm like not wholeheartedly learning the set yet. I'm just kind of like listening to the tunes and stuff. And I'm thinking the whole time that Tim will probably pull through and he'll be able to do it. If he's not, I'll step up. And sadly, a few months after that, we got the news that he passed, and it was just totally devastating. Right. It's not what any of us wanted to hear. It's just awful and terrible. And so, a little while later, they came back to me, and I was like, yeah, I mean, of course, I told you I would, so I will be there, So they were rescheduling this whole thing because of COVID had already taken over and stuff. So, as far as I know, we're all set for next year, and I'm honored to do it. A little bit of a funny little story, real quick. It's a trip for me, pretty wild, because like when you're young, you have. Okay, when I was in 1982, Armored Saint was just getting started, and I was involved in tape trading, and I had a lot of pen pals overseas. For those of you who don't know what tape trading is, we used to actually write letters to other fans, like in different parts of the world, like paper and a pen, not like this, but like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we would write letters to each other, like, hey man, there's this band in my neighborhood, or this band in my city, they're rad, check them out. And we would trade tapes, cassette tapes of your favorite bands that were in the area. And of course, I was promoting Armored Saint. We were just starting out, but I met a lot of people overseas. And there was this one guy in Holland, sent me all kinds of stuff, new wave of British heavy metal stuff that I didn't know about, like Jaguar and H-Bomb and like all this crazy stuff. And one of the records he sent me, well, one of the cassettes he sent me, was a cassette of the first Merciful Fate EP, and
wow.
I freaked out. I loved it. I played the crap out of that cassette all of 1982. That's when I first got it. I think it was 82.
Did you get it? Did it come with the Nuns Have No Fun artwork?
No, it was literally a cassette, and it was just song titles and Merciful Fate. I think it was only called EP. I think Nuns Have No Fun was a title they gave it later. I don't remember that exactly, but Merciful Fate nerd would correct me on that. But but anyway, I played the crap out of that first EP, and I followed them since then. But that first EP was kind of a part of my upbringing a little bit, if you will, because I was like a sponge at that time, just taking everything in, and new wave of British heavy metal, and this was one of those things that I played the crap out of, and maybe even influenced me a little bit on what I was writing for Armored Saint at that time. I can't really think specifically what that would be, but it just, a lot of the riffs appealed to me, and so fast forward to now, I'm like, what a trip! Like they just asked me to play with them. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. This is insane. Yeah. Like, never in a million years would I imagine that ever happening. So, I'm honored that they considered me, and I'm gonna do my best to make sure that you can't fill Tim's shoes, but at least play his parts and make the music be able to stand on its own still.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Cool stuff.
I know we do have some time constraints, so we don't want to keep you much longer, Rich. I don't know if you have anything else.
I'm good. I know Joey's on, he's got to go in a few minutes, right, Joe?
I got to cook dinner. Got dinner.
Yeah, he's got to go. So, yeah.
All right. So we won't keep you any longer. Like I said, I have about 4,000 more questions, so they're gonna have to all go.
No, we can do a couple more. It's cool.
All right. Well, no, I was being serious. This wasn't like this trick to trick you into staying here. But,
no, that's fine.
We could always do another one another time.
I'm actually in my kitchen, so I don't have far to go.
Oh, nice. You should cook while you're talking to us. Well, Dave Messini brought up. He says, "Don't forget, Joey also works with Motor Sister."
Hi, Dave.
So, I don't know if you want to talk about Motor Sister. He's talking about Motor Sister.
What did he ask? Oh, talk about Motor Sister?
Yeah, that's what he was. He just said, "Don't forget." Motor
Sister. Yeah. Well, sure. Motor Sister, another great band I play with some great people. It's John Tempesta, Scott Ian, Scott's wife Pearl Lede, Jim Wilson, amazing songwriter, and we. For the uninitiated, we have a record out already on Metal Blade, and it's just straight up 70s hard rock style stuff. It's so much fun, and we have a great time working together. Everybody's has the same love of music, and it's really just it's just like a great time with friends is what it is. It hardly seems like any kind of work at all. It's just hanging out with people you love to hang out with and make great music. We were actually right in the middle of recording a new record when the city shut down in LA. Like, we literally finished the bass and drums, and it was like a Friday night or Thursday night, I forget. And we got the news from the governor here, like, that's it, city shuts down. And we were like, oh my God, what's happening? We couldn't believe it was real. So we all left the studio and we all rushed to the grocery stores at like 11:30 at night, and every store was packed, and it was like surreal. It was crazy. But anyway, the story is that we haven't been able to finish the record. The studios are all closed. There's nowhere to work right now, so we need to finish a record. Basically, we have all the songs, rhythm tracks done, but we've got to finish some guitars, and we've got to do vocals, and then of course mix it. So we're hoping that some things lighten up here in LA, and we can at least find some place where we can go in on a limited capacity of some sort and, finish the record. I mean, even if we have to do it maybe in somebody's home studio or something, I don't know. We're kind of waiting to see what can open up first. So that's kind of a work in progress, but we are working on a new Motor Sister record. So that should be fun. Hopefully, if we get it done.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Rich.
I'm good. Let's let the guy go do his cooking. I don't want to keep him too long.
Yeah, I agree. I'll say before Rich, I'll say this: it's been a great meeting. It's been an honor. You're, one of not just flattering you, man. I mean, you're one of metal's great bassists. It's really great. It's an honor to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, we can have you on again.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll come back. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man. Thank you guys very much.
Yes.
It was a great conversation, and it's my pleasure anytime. Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks. Good luck with both of the albums coming out too.
Thank you. Thanks very much, and we'll see you October 10th.
Yes, I'll be checking it out. Yep.
October 10th.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.